Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at something that I think is really, really interesting. And that's the difference between a transaction and an experience.
Okay.
And we're going to be focusing on people in the trades. So we're talking folks like plumbers, electricians, restoration pros.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive actually came about from Carsey Day, the Cleaning and Restoration Science Institute.
Oh, interesting.
So, and it really got me thinking,
Yeah.
because we're seeing this shift in what customers are really looking for.
It's a huge shift. It really is.
Yeah, so maybe you can speak to that a little bit about what customers used to expect and then what they're looking for now.
Yeah. So, I think it's a really interesting area to explore, right? Because it's something that I think we all kind of notice as consumers, but we don't always put our finger on it.
Right.
And it's definitely something that businesses are having to adapt to.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of paint a picture, 20 years ago, if you had a company come in and let's say you had a flooded kitchen.
Okay.
And they showed up, they got the water out, they dried everything, you were thrilled.
Right. You're like problem solved.
Right, exactly. Problem solved, case closed, you paid your bill and that was it. But the thing is that today's customer is different,
Totally.
They're more informed, they have more options,
Yeah.
and they're really looking for something more than just that basic transaction.
Yeah.
They want to feel understood, they want to feel respected, they want to feel cared for.
Okay, so give me an example of that.
Okay, so let's go back to your flooded kitchen.
All right.
Imagine the restoration team not only gets the water out,
Okay.
but they also take extra care to protect your belongings. They lay down those tarps.
Oh,
They maybe put your furniture up on blocks,
wow, yeah.
They clearly explain each step of the drying process so you're not just sitting there wondering what's going on. And
Right.
then maybe even, offer some genuine emotional support because, let's face it, a flooded kitchen is a stressful situation.
Oh, it's hugely stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an example of how you can take something that's a very transactional service and really turn it into an experience.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I can already see how that would completely change how I felt about the whole situation.
Exactly. And I think the other thing, too, is that when you have that kind of experience, you're much more likely to recommend that company to your friends.
Oh, totally. Like if they just came in and, did their job and left,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really think twice about it.
Right, exactly. But if they went above and beyond and made you feel like you were truly taken care of,
Yeah.
then you're going to tell all your friends, hey, you got to call this company. They were amazing.
Right. Because you're paying for expertise. You're paying for that, feeling of being taken care of.
Exactly. You're not just paying for dry floors. You're paying for peace of mind.
Right.
You're paying for that feeling of, okay, I can relax. Now I know I'm in good hands.
Okay. So we've been talking about restoration, but
Sure.
this really applies to like any trade, right?
Yeah.
Plumbers, electricians, anybody that's coming into a customer's home.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about it. You call an electrician because a fuse keeps blowing.
Okay.
Now, instead of just replacing the fuse and leaving, they take a few minutes to inspect your whole electrical panel.
Uh-huh.
They offer you some energy-saving tips. Maybe they even show you how to reset a breaker yourself in the future.
Right.
That's going above and beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
It suddenly becomes like less about the blown fuse and more about, feeling like you learned something or that they care about the safety of your house.
Precisely. And it's about establishing yourself as a valuable resource, not just somebody who comes in and performs a quick fix.
Okay, I see what Carsey's getting at with this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we've kind of painted this picture of, the experience, but what's in it for the businesses themselves? Like, why should a plumbing company care about all of this?
Well, I think, in a world where you can find a plumber or electrician with a quick Google search, differentiation is key.
Right.
It's not just about price anymore. It's about the value that you add.
So in a crowded market, that's really how you stand out.
Exactly. And think about it. When you have a really positive experience with a company, are you more likely to use them again?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Are you more likely to recommend them to your friends?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm all about word of mouth.
Yeah.
Like I tell people about good service.
Exactly. And those online reviews that everybody's obsessed with, those come from amazing experiences. They don't come from just okay ones.
Right. It's not enough to just be good at what you do. You have to make people feel good about it.
Exactly. And that's where Carsey's insights really come into play.
Yeah. And that's, I think, an important takeaway.
For sure.
So, okay. So we've got this whole customer side of things. But, what about the employees? I mean, how does this all impact the people who are actually doing the work?
Well, that's actually one of the things that I find most interesting about this whole topic.
Okay.
Because, we often think about customer experience as being separate from employee experience.
Right.
But they're actually very intertwined. Because when you Empower your team to go the extra mile to be problem solvers, to build those relationships with customers.
Yeah.
You're giving them more than just a to-do list. You're giving them a chance to be genuinely helpful.
Right.
You're giving them a chance to really make a difference in somebody's day.
Okay, I like that. So they feel more valued as well.
Exactly. And, it makes for a much more fulfilling work experience,
Yeah, for sure.
which can lead to higher morale, lower turnover,
Right.
all good things for a business.
Okay, so we're talking about creating a win-win here.
Absolutely. It's a win for the customer, it's a win for the business, and it's a win for the employees.
I love that.
And I think that's what makes this whole concept so powerful.
Okay, so I'm convinced this is the way to go. But how do we actually get there?
Mm-hmm.
How do businesses make this shift? Like, it sounds great in theory,
Right.
but what are the practical steps?
Well, it all starts with a mindset shift. You have to stop seeing each job as just a task to be completed and start seeing it as a chance to create a positive interaction with another human being.
And that involves training,
Mm.
right? Like, not just, how to fix a toilet, but how to do it in a way that makes the customer feel good about it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
It's about equipping your team with the tools they need to not just fix the problem, but also leave the customer feeling truly cared for.
All right, so it's not just about, unclogging the drain. It's about making the homeowner feel at ease while you're doing it.
Exactly. And it's about putting systems and processes in place
Right.
that support this type of personalized service.
So things like, maybe having a clear protocol for protecting the customer's home during a job,
Exactly.
or using software that allows for more personal follow-ups.
Exactly. It's all about building a framework that empowers your team to consistently deliver those positive experiences.
Okay, so it's an investment for sure.
It is.
But as we've discussed, the payoff can be substantial. Okay, so we've laid the foundation. We understand the why behind this shift from transactions to experiences.
Yeah.
But let's get even more specific. When we come back, we'll delve into some strategies that businesses can use to create those wow moments for their customers.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
Welcome back. So we've talked about why it's so important to create these amazing experiences for customers, but I want to get into like the nitty-gritty.
Yep.
What does this actually look like in the real world?
Yeah, give me some examples. Like, how are businesses actually putting this into practice?
Okay, so one example that I thought was really cool, and I actually read about this in one of the Car Society articles, was a plumbing company that sends each customer a personalized thank you card
Okay.
after a service call.
Like a handwritten note.
Yeah, not just like a generic printed out thing,
Mhm.
but an actual handwritten note from the plumber expressing gratitude for their business.
That is so nice.
Right. It's such a small gesture,
Yeah.
but it makes a huge difference in terms of making that person feel valued and appreciated.
Totally. It's like you instantly elevate that whole interaction from just a business transaction to something that's a little bit more human.
Exactly. And, I saw another example that I thought was really clever. It was an electrician who, as part of their service, they offer a free home energy audit.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. So they're not just there to fix the problem.
Yeah.
They're actually thinking long-term about the customer's needs.
And it provides real value.
Exactly. And then speaking of long-term thinking, one of the best examples I came across was a water damage restoration company.
Okay.
And imagine going through something as traumatic as a flooded basement.
Oh, gosh. I can't even imagine.
Right. It's a nightmare. And after the restoration is complete, this company sends you a care package.
No way.
Yeah. Think like cleaning supplies, air fresheners, maybe even a gift certificate to a local restaurant to help get you back on your feet.
That's amazing.
Right. It's like they're saying, we know this was tough. Let us help make things a little bit easier.
That's next level. I mean, that really shows they care.
Exactly. And, it's these small touches that really create those lasting impressions.
For sure.
But, it's not just about the tangible things. A lot of it also comes down to how you interact with that customer from the very beginning.
Okay, so like from the moment they call to make an appointment.
Exactly. How does the person on the other end of the line sound? Are they friendly? Are they helpful?
Right, because I've definitely had experiences where you call a company and the person sounds annoyed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a turnoff.
It is. It's like an immediate red flag.
Yeah, you're like, well, I don't even want to do business with you now.
Exactly. So first impressions matter.
Totally.
And then throughout that whole process, from the initial phone call to the actual service visit, clear and consistent communication is key.
Especially for something like electrical work. or dealing with water damage, which can be super stressful for a homeowner.
Absolutely. You got to keep the customer informed every step of the way.
Yeah, like this is what we're doing. This is how long it's going to take.
Exactly. And it just goes a long way in building trust and alleviating that anxiety.
Right, because if you don't know what's going on, it just makes the whole situation so much worse.
Exactly. And then don't forget about the follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't end when the plumber walks out the door.
So making sure the customer's satisfied that everything's working properly.
More than that, even a quick phone call or email to check in.
Okay.
See if they have any lingering questions or concerns that can make a big difference.
It shows you're really invested in their long-term satisfaction.
Exactly. You're not just trying to close the deal and move on.
Okay, so we've got some great examples, but let's get actionable here.
Okay.
If someone's listening to this and thinking, all right, I want to do this in my business,
Yeah.
what are some concrete steps they can take?
Well, I think first and foremost, personalize.
Okay.
Use the customer's name. Ask them about their day. Genuinely listen to their concerns.
It's like we were saying before, treat them like a human being.
Exactly. And don't just meet expectations, exceed them.
Okay, how do we do that?
Think about what would impress you if you were the customer,
Yeah.
and then go one step further.
So those little unexpected touches that make someone say, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Exactly. And we talked about communication, but I can't stress it enough.
Yeah.
Keep your customers in the loop every step of the way. It really does make a difference.
Right. Communication is king.
It is. And then embrace technology.
Right. So things like mobile apps that allow for real-time updates from the technicians, online booking systems, all of that.
Exactly. And then on the back end, utilize systems like a CRM to keep track of customer preferences,
Okay.
service history, all that information that lets you really personalize your interactions.
So it's about using technology to enhance the human element, not to replace it.
Precisely. And then lastly, don't underestimate the power of a simple thank you.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that before.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a handwritten note, a small gift, something tangible that says we appreciate your business.
I love that. Okay, so personalize, exceed expectations, communicate clearly, leverage technology, express gratitude.
That's
Sounds like a winning formula.
It really is. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. You know, you're always learning. You're always finding ways to improve.
It's about creating a culture within your business where exceeding expectations is just the norm.
Exactly. And now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another crucial element of this whole equation, online reviews.
Oh, yes.
Because in today's digital world, they can make or break a business.
Oh, for sure. Everyone's checking those reviews before they hire anybody.
Exactly. So how do you think this idea of transactions versus experiences ties into online reviews?
Well, I mean, think about it. You're much more likely to leave a glowing review if you've had an experience that just totally blew you away.
Right. It's not just about getting the job done. It's about those little extras.
Exactly. Like, my plumber was so friendly and helpful, and he even showed me how to prevent future clogs. 5 stars.
Exactly. And on the flip side, a negative review often comes from that feeling of being treated like just a number.
Right. Like, the electrician just slapped a Band-Aid on the problem and charged me an arm and a leg 1 star.
Exactly. So the takeaway here is that creating those positive experiences can really have a direct impact on your online reputation.
And in today's world, your online reputation is everything.
It really is. But it's not just about getting those 5-star reviews. It's also about how you handle the negative ones.
Yeah, because let's face it, you can't please everybody all the time.
Exactly. But even a negative review can be an opportunity to shine.
Okay.
Responding to those reviews in a professional way, showing that you're listening, that you're willing to make things right, that can actually build trust with potential customers.
Right. It shows that you actually care.
Exactly. It all ties back into this idea of creating an experience that goes beyond just the transaction.
Okay, so online reviews, definitely a key piece of the puzzle, but I want to circle back to something we touched on a bit earlier, employee satisfaction. We talked about how creating these positive experiences for customers can actually make employees happier,
Yeah.
but I want to dig into that a little bit more. Why is that connection so strong?
Well, I think it boils down to a few things. You know, firstly, when employees are empowered to create those positive experiences,
Yeah.
it gives them a sense of ownership and pride in their work.
It's not just a job anymore, it's something more.
Exactly. It's not just about following a script or checking off boxes. It's about using their judgment, their creativity to make a real difference.
And when they see that positive impact, it makes them feel good.
Exactly. And that creates a sense of fulfillment that goes beyond just getting a paycheck.
Okay, so it's about feeling like their work matters.
Exactly. And secondly, I think it creates a much more positive and collaborative work environment.
How so?
Well, when everyone is focused on creating those positive experiences, it fosters a sense of teamwork and shared purpose.
Right. It's like we're all in this together.
Exactly. And that kind of energy can be contagious.
It can be.
It makes people want to come to work. It makes them want to do their best. It makes them want to be part of a team that's making a difference.
So by creating a culture that prioritizes the customer experience, you're actually creating a more positive and fulfilling work experience for your employees.
Absolutely. And happier employees are more productive, they're more engaged, they're more likely to stick around.
Right. It's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm convinced. But let's be real. Making this shift from transactions to experiences, it's not always easy.
No, it's not.
What are some of the challenges that businesses might face in trying to implement this approach?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is that it requires a significant investment in training and development.
Okay.
You can't just tell your employees to be more customer focused.
Right.
You have to give them the skills and knowledge that they need to actually deliver those exceptional experiences.
So it's not just about changing mindsets. It's about providing those concrete tools and resources.
Exactly.
So what kind of training are we talking about here?
It could be anything from role-playing exercises to customer service workshops to even one-on-one coaching from experienced team members.
Okay.
It's about making sure your employees have the communication skills,
Yeah.
the problem-solving skills, and the emotional intelligence.
Oh, emotional intelligence. That's a big one.
It is.
So what does that actually mean in a practical sense, especially in the context of customer service?
So emotional intelligence is all about being aware of and managing your own emotions, but also being able to recognize and understand the emotions of others.
Okay.
So in a customer service setting, this means being able to read your customer's emotional state.
Okay.
Are they frustrated? Are they stressed? Are they anxious? And then adjusting your communication style accordingly.
So if somebody calls in a panic because their basement is flooding,
Mm-hmm.
you don't just launch into a technical explanation of how you're going to fix it.
Right.
You first acknowledge their stress and reassure them that you're there to help.
Exactly. It's about being empathetic. It's about
Mhm.
being patient and understanding even when the customer might not be behaving rationally.
Right, because they're in a stressful situation.
Exactly.
Okay. So emotional intelligence, definitely a crucial skill for anyone in the service industry. What other challenges might businesses face?
Well, another challenge is that it can be difficult to measure the return on investment of creating these experiences.
Okay.
It's not always easy to quantify the impact of customer satisfaction, loyalty, word of mouth referrals.
So you have to kind of take a leap of faith that it'll pay off in the long run.
You do, but the research is clear. Businesses that prioritize the customer experience, they tend to outperform those that don't.
Right.
So while it might not be as easy to track as, say, advertising spend,
Yeah.
the benefits are real.
And sometimes those benefits are intangible,
Yeah.
right? It's about building that goodwill, that trust that makes customers choose you over the competition,
Exactly.
even if your prices are a little bit higher.
That's a great point. And I think one of the most rewarding aspects of making the shift is seeing the positive impact it has on both your customers and your employees.
It's that win-win that we were talking about.
Yeah. Exactly. When you see your team genuinely excited about going above and beyond for customers.
Yeah.
And when you see those customers responding with loyalty and appreciation, it makes all the effort worth it.
It does.
It creates that virtuous cycle where everybody benefits.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, the why, the what, the how, even the challenges, but I think it's time to look ahead.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll explore the future of customer experience and discuss some emerging trends that are shaping the industry.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back.
Huh.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about the shift from transactions to experiences, especially for folks in the trades. But now I'm curious, what's next? What does the future hold for all of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, one of the most exciting developments is the role that technology is going to play
Okay.
in shaping these experiences.
We touched on this earlier with like CRMs and mobile apps,
Yeah.
but it feels like we're just scratching the surface.
We are. We really are. We're just at the beginning of what's possible with things like AI and machine learning.
Okay, yeah, give me an example of that.
Okay, so imagine a world where a plumbing company uses AI to analyze your past service history
Okay.
and actually predict potential problems before they even happen.
Wow, that's wild.
Right. It's like having a virtual plumber in the background, keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, it's almost like preventative maintenance on a whole other level.
Exactly. It's about anticipating needs rather than just reacting to problems. And you can use this type of technology to personalize solutions too.
Okay.
Let's say you always go for a specific brand of water heater, or you have a preference for a certain type of faucet. The company would know that
Oh,
in advance and tailor their recommendations accordingly.
so it's about using data to create a really personalized experience for each customer.
Exactly. And this ties into another big trend we're seeing, which is this emphasis on what's called the omnichannel experience.
Okay, break that down for me. What is an omni-channel experience?
So it's about providing a seamless experience across all channels,
Okay.
whether it's online, in person, over the phone.
Okay, so like I book a plumbing service online, and then I call to ask a quick question, and then the technician comes to my home.
Exactly.
Should all feel like one continuous interaction.
Exactly. It shouldn't feel like you're starting from scratch every time you interact with the company.
Right, you're not repeating information.
Exactly. It should feel like one conversation, regardless of how you're communicating.
Got it.
And this requires companies to really understand that customer journey.
Okay.
You know how people move from that initial point of contact to becoming a loyal repeat customer?
And it also involves having the right technology and processes in place to support that.
Absolutely.
Huh.
But if companies can get this right, the payoff is huge.
Yeah.
It's all about making it as easy and enjoyable as possible for people to do business with you.
Okay, so we've got AI-powered predictions. We've got seamless omni-channel experiences. Anything else on the horizon?
Well, there's a trend that's already gaining some momentum, and I think it's only going to get bigger, and that's the rise of the subscription economy.
Interesting. We usually think about subscriptions for things like streaming services or meal kits.
Right.
How does that apply to plumbers and electricians?
So it's a shift from these one-off
Hmm.
transactions to more ongoing relationships.
Okay.
So instead of just calling a plumber when your toilet's overflowing, imagine you sign up for a monthly or annual subscription.
Okay.
That includes regular maintenance, preventative services, maybe even discounts on repairs.
So it's almost like a plumbing membership.
Exactly. It gives the customer peace of mind knowing that their home systems are being taken care of.
Yeah.
And for businesses, it creates a more predictable revenue stream,
Right.
and it helps to build those long-term relationships.
I like that a lot. And I think this ties in really nicely with that whole idea of focusing on experiences rather than
It,
transactions.
it absolutely does, because you're not just coming in to fix a problem.
Right.
You're becoming a partner in maintaining that customer's home.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to what customers are looking for these days. That convenience, that value, that sense of knowing that things are taken care of.
Okay, so we've got AI omni-channel experiences, the subscription model. This is all getting very futuristic.
It is exciting times.
But if we kind of zoom out and look at the big picture, where do you see this whole idea of transactions versus experiences headed?
You know, I think the writing's on the wall. The shift towards experiences is here to stay.
Okay.
Customers have more choices than ever before.
Yeah.
They're more discerning.
For sure.
They're willing to pay a premium for businesses that go above and beyond.
It's not just about being good at what you do anymore.
Right.
It's
Right.
about building those relationships, creating that trust,
Yeah.
making people feel valued and appreciated.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that every interaction is an opportunity to create a positive experience.
Right.
Whether it's a phone call, an email, a service visit, it all matters.
All adds up to the big picture.
It does. And those experiences are ultimately what shape our perceptions of a brand.
Right.
And those perceptions, they can make or break a business in today's world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a call to action for all of us, really, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, a business owner,
Anybody.
anybody
Yeah.
who interacts with customers. This shift towards experiences is something that we all need to embrace.
I think so too. It's not just a trend, it's a fundamental shift in how we do business and how we build relationships. And it's an opportunity to create something special, something that sets you apart from the competition and makes a real difference in the lives of the people you serve.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of transactions versus experiences, I want to leave everyone with a simple but powerful thought.
Okay.
Think back to the best service experience you've ever had. What made it so great? What made you feel valued and appreciated? And how can you apply those lessons to your own work, to your own business, to your own interactions with the world? Because in a world that's becoming increasingly transactional, it's the experiences that we create that really matter.
That's it.
Beautifully said. So go out there and create some amazing experiences. Until next time, keep diving deep.